Imagine spending months preparing for the biggest tournament of your life. The training camp is perfect, the squad is sharp, the coach has the tactics dialed in. Your first match is in less than 24 hours, and then nobody can find the paperwork to let your plane into the country. That's not a hypothetical. That's exactly what happened to Uruguay, one of the most decorated football nations on the planet, just one day before their opening match at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Marcelo Bielsa's side had been preparing in Cancun, Mexico, ahead of their Group H opener against Saudi Arabia in Miami, but the plane arranged to take them from Cancun to Florida wasn't cleared to enter United States airspace because the aircraft didn't have the correct documentation approved for that flight route. A football squad, grounded at a resort with less than a day to go. And when they finally did land in America, they were greeted with sniffer dogs and full security checks, a scene so unusual that video of it went viral almost immediately. So what's actually going on here? And is this just one team's bad luck, or is it a sign of something much bigger happening behind the scenes at FIFA 2026? Let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. This channel covers FIFA 2026 from every angle. The football, the logistics, the stories nobody else is talking about. Hit subscribe right now because this tournament is already delivering more drama off the pitch than most people expected. To understand what happened with Uruguay, you have to understand just how complicated the logistics of this World Cup actually are. The 2026 tournament features 48 teams, 105 games, across 14 host cities spread across 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, played out over more than a month. That's an enormous operation, and with that scale comes an enormous number of moving parts. Teams don't just fly directly from their home countries to their match venues. Many of them set up base camps in one country and then travel to games in another. Uruguay had been doing exactly that, training at the Mayakoba complex near Cancun, Mexico, before needing to travel to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport in Florida for their match at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Simple enough on paper, but here's where things started to unravel. The aircraft scheduled to take the Uruguay squad from Cancun to Miami hadn't been authorized to enter U.S. airspace because of issues with the required paperwork for that specific route. And when something like this happens at a World Cup, everybody immediately starts asking one question: whose fault is it? Uruguay's football association, known as the AUF, didn't hesitate. An AUF spokesperson told reporters that the delay was FIFA's fault. FIFA, in turn, issued a statement saying the problem was caused by an airline permitting error in Mexico, adding that the airline had apologized for the inconvenience. Two parties, two completely different versions of events, and a national football team stuck at a resort hotel with their World Cup debut hours away. Here's where things get interesting. The situation unfolded on Sunday, June 14, 2026, less than 24 hours before Uruguay's opening match against Saudi Arabia on Monday evening. Think about the pressure inside that squad at that moment. You're a World Cup player, you spent years getting here, and now you're being told your flight can't take off because someone, somewhere, didn't fill in the right forms. Bielsa, as calm as ever in public, eventually addressed the media after the situation was resolved. He said the flight situation would cause no problem for the team ahead of the match. Captain Jose Maria Jimenez added simply, "We had some complications." That's about as understated as it gets. But what happened when they actually landed in Miami was something else entirely. A video went viral showing Uruguay players being stopped for security inspections involving sniffer dogs before their pre-match preparations. Security teams examined luggage and gear before the squad was allowed to continue. The video attracted widespread attention because it's rare to see such scenes involving national football teams at major tournaments, even though strict security is standard at events of this scale. Now, to be clear, security checks are part of the landscape at any major international sporting event hosted in the United States. No one is claiming wrongdoing, but the combination of events, flight blocked from entering U.S. airspace one day, sniffer dogs checking the squad's bags the next, created an image that spread fast, and it raised a question that football fans around the world started asking. Is this what World Cup 2026 is going to look like for traveling teams? And if you think Uruguay's situation is an isolated case, think again, because it turns out their story is just one piece of a much larger picture that's been developing since this tournament began. A Somali referee, Omar Artan, was denied entry into the United States despite being on FIFA's own list of approved officials, turned away at Miami Airport over what were described as unspecified vetting concerns. Read that again. A match official, listed by FIFA, turned away at the border. Iran, meanwhile, have claimed that their fan ticket allocation was revoked just 1 week before their opening match against New Zealand in Los Angeles, with the country's football federation describing the decision as one that would sabotage the presence of Iranian fans at the tournament. Jamaica, too, have been facing the prospect of traveling to California without a significant portion of their squad after the U.S. State Department denied entry documents for several players, including 6 Haitian nationals who are facing strict U.S. entry policies. What you're seeing when you put all of this together is a pattern, the most logistically complex World Cup in the history, one spanning 3 countries and requiring teams, officials, and fans to constantly cross international borders, is running into the reality of those borders.
And some teams are feeling it far more than others. If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive coverage, now's the perfect time to subscribe. We post multiple times a week throughout this tournament, and trust me, there are a lot more stories like this one still developing. Now let's zoom out for a moment and ask a bigger question. Has this ever happened before? The honest answer is, not quite like this. Previous World Cups have had their logistical headaches. Brazil 2014 saw stadium construction delays that had people genuinely worried about venues being ready in time. Russia 2018 raised concerns about fan safety and visa complications for supporters from certain countries. Qatar 2022 brought a completely different set of questions around accommodation, alcohol policy, and the compressed schedule of a winter tournament. But those were largely internal issues, problems within one host country, dealing with one set of rules. What 2026 has introduced is something genuinely new, a tri-nation tournament where teams, officials, and fans are expected to move fluidly between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, each of which has its own immigration system, its own aviation regulations, its own security apparatus. Teams are required to navigate multiple layers of administrative approvals, including aviation permits, immigration clearance, and security coordination across different jurisdictions. Even minor documentation issues can lead to significant scheduling disruptions when teams are operating on tightly controlled tournament timelines. Travel and Tour World. That's the structural challenge at the heart of everything we've been discussing, and it's one that FIFA, for all their pre-tournament planning, is clearly still working to manage in real time. The Uruguay flight delay serves as a practical example of how small administrative issues can escalate into high-profile disruptions during global sporting events. One piece of missing paperwork, one plane that couldn't take off, and suddenly a 2-time World Cup winner is trending on social media for all the wrong reasons the night before their opening game. And what does it all mean for the players themselves? Because at the end of the day, football is about what happens on the pitch, and when you strip away the logistics chaos, you still have one of the most talented and historically significant squads Uruguay has fielded in years, arriving in Miami to compete. Uruguay are making their 15th appearance at a FIFA World Cup, a remarkable record for a country of roughly 3.5 million people. Bielsa's squad carries the weight of that history with every match they play. And, despite everything, the grounded flight, the sniffer dog checks, the canceled press conference, the compressed preparation time, Uruguay took to the pitch against Saudi Arabia and earned a 1-1 draw. Maxi Araujo came off the bench to rescue a point after the Saudis had led through Abdullah Al-Amri's first-half strike, ESPN. Uruguay dominated possession, finishing the match with 67% of the ball, their highest possession tally on record in a World Cup match since 1966. They created chances, they pressed, they found a way, even if the result wasn't the clean win they'd have wanted. Bielsa's men showed exactly the kind of character that Uruguay teams are known for. You don't produce 15 World Cup appearances without having some mental toughness baked in at every level. But the conversation around this squad isn't just about what they showed on the pitch. It's about what they had to deal with before they ever kicked a ball. And for fans watching this unfold, especially those who follow Uruguay closely, that's a conversation that doesn't end with a 1-1 draw. CONMEBOL nations are yet to win a game in the 2026 FIFA World Cup so far, with 2 draws and 2 losses from their first 4 matches, their worst start to a tournament since 1974. That's a stat that South American football fans will find uncomfortable. Whether the off-field disruptions are contributing to that on-field struggle is a question worth asking. So what happens from here? For Uruguay specifically, the path is still very much open. They face Cape Verde next on June 21st, also at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, before their final group game against Spain in Guadalajara on June 26th. 6 points on the table, plenty of football left, and a squad with the talent to push deep into this tournament if they can find consistency. But the bigger picture question is one for FIFA. When you create the most ambitious World Cup format in history, 48 teams, 3 host nations, 105 matches, you also create a level of logistical complexity that requires a standard of coordination that leaves absolutely no room for error. The incident has underlined the importance of synchronized planning between sports governing bodies, airlines, and government authorities. The best-case scenario from here is that what happened to Uruguay is a one-off, a messy but fixable administrative failure that gets sorted out quickly and doesn't affect another team. FIFA tightens its travel coordination procedures. Teams get clearer communication about exactly what documentation is required at every stage of their movement, and the tournament moves on. The more difficult scenario is one where this pattern continues, where teams traveling between Mexico, the US, and Canada keep hitting bureaucratic walls, where fans find their visas withdrawn, where officials are turned away at borders. If that happens at scale, the conversation around this World Cup starts to shift away from the football and toward the framework that's supposed to be holding it all together. FIFA has invested enormously in positioning 2026 as the tournament that redefines what a World Cup can be. The 48-team format, the 3-country co-hosting model, the record number of matches, all of it is designed to expand the reach and commercial power of the game. But expansion comes with responsibility, and right now, the logistics of that expansion are being tested in ways that nobody quite anticipated. Here's what I want to know from you. When you watched that video of Uruguay's players going through sniffer dog checks, what was your reaction? Was it just standard security that people are making too much of? Or does it represent something about how this tournament is being managed that concerns you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Genuinely curious where people land on this one. And here's the bigger question to think about. If a team like Uruguay, a well-funded, well-connected football association with FIFA support and decades of World Cup experience, can have their flight blocked and their squad subjected to an unusual arrival process, what does that mean for smaller, less resourced nations competing in this tournament? Teams that don't have the same infrastructure, the same connections, the same ability to escalate a problem and get it resolved quickly. That's a question worth sitting with. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is only a few days old, and it has already delivered moments that nobody had on their bingo card. A World Cup squad stranded in a Mexican resort, sniffer dogs at the gate, a Somali referee turned away in immigration despite being on FIFA's approved list, Iran's fans potentially shut out of matches in Los Angeles. Uruguay managed to drag themselves through all of it and earn a point against Saudi Arabia. That's a testament to the resilience of the squad and the composure Bielsa has built into this group. But the story here isn't just about one team and one chaotic travel day. It's about whether the most ambitious World Cup ever conceived has the systems in place to actually deliver on its promise. The next few weeks will tell us a lot.